Lesson 19. The Kalamas of Kesaputta, abridged. Part 1. Paragraph 1. Thus have I heard. On an occasion the Exalted One, while going his rounds among the Kosalans, with a great assembly of monks, came to Kesaputta, a district of Kosala. Now the Kalamas of Kesaputta heard that Gautama the recluse, the Sakyan's son, who went forth from the Sakyan clan, had reached Kesaputta, and this good reputation was noised abroad about Gautama the recluse. He is the Exalted One, the Arahant, the fully self-enlightened one. It is indeed a good thing to get sight of such an Arahant. Paragraph 2. So they came to see the Exalted One. Then as they sat, they said this to him. Revered Sir, some recluses and brahmanas visit Kesaputta. They fully expound and illumine their own doctrine, but they abuse, revile, depreciate, and cripple the view of others. Moreover, other recluses and brahmanas, on coming to Kesaputta, do likewise. When we listen to them, revered sir, we have doubt and wavering as to which of these worthy ones speaks truth and which speaks falsehood. Paragraph 3. Yes, sure, Kalamas, you may well doubt, you may well waver. In a doubtful matter, wavering does arise. Now look you, Kalamas, do not be led by report, 1, or tradition, 2, or hearsay, 3. Be not led by the authority of the Scriptures, 4, nor by mere logic, 5, nor inference, 6, nor by considering appearances, 7, nor by the delight in some opinions, 8, nor by a person's competence, 9, nor out of respect for a recluse, 10. But Kalamas, when you know for yourselves, these things are unwholesome, these things are blameworthy, these things are censored by the wise. If performed and undertaken, they conduce to loss and sorrow, then indeed do ye reject them, Kalamas. Paragraph 4. Now what think ye, Kalamas? When greed arises within a man, does it arise to his profit or to his loss? To his loss, revered sir. Now what think ye, Kalamas? When ill will arises within a man, does it arise to his profit or to his loss? To his loss, revered sir. Now what think ye, Kalamas? When delusion arises within a man, does it arise to his profit or to his loss? To his loss, revered sir. Paragraph 5. Well then, Kalamas, what think ye? Are these things profitable or unprofitable? Unprofitable, revered sir. Are they blameworthy or not? Blameworthy, revered sir. Are they censored by the wise or not? They are censored, revered sir. If performed and undertaken, do they conduce to loss and sorrow or not? They conduce to loss and sorrow, sir. So then, Kalamas, as to my words to you just now, do not be led by report or tradition or hearsay. Then indeed do you reject them. Such was my reason for uttering these words. Part 2. Paragraph 6. But now, Kalamas, if any time you know for yourselves, these things are profitable, they are blameless, they are praised by the wise, these things, when performed and undertaken, conduce to profit and happiness, then, Kalamas, do ye undertake them and abide therein. Now what think ye, Kalamas, When freedom from greed arises in a man, does it arise to his profit or to his loss? To his profit, sir. Now what think ye, Calamaz? When freedom from ill will arises in a man, does it arise to his profit or to his loss? To his profit, sir. Now what think ye, Calamaz? When freedom from delusion arises in a man, does it arise to his profit or to his loss? To his profit, sir. Paragraph 7. Then, Calamaz, what think ye? Are these things profitable or unprofitable? Profitable, sir. Are they blameworthy or not? They are not, sir. Are they censored or praised by the wise? They are praised, sir. When performed and undertaken, do they conduce to happiness or not? They do conduce to happiness, sir. So then, Calamaz, as to my words to you just now, these things are profitable and conduce happiness. Do ye undertake them and abide therein? Such was my reason for uttering them. Paragraph 8. Now, Calamaz, he who is an Aryan disciple, free from greed, ill will, and delusion, who is mindful and self-controlled, with a heart possessed by loving kindness, by compassion, by sympathetic joy, by equanimity, such a one abides, suffusing 1/4 of the world, likewise the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th quarter of the world, and in like manner, above, below, across, everywhere, for all sorts and conditions, he abides suffusing the whole world with a heart possessed by loving kindness, by compassion, by sympathetic joy, by equanimity, that is widespread, grown great, and boundless, without enmity, without hatred. Paragraph 9. By that Aryan disciple, whose heart is thus free from enmity, from hatred, stainless and pure, 4 comforts are attained in this very life. 1. When the body breaks up after death, I shall be reborn in the good-born, the heaven world. This is the first comfort he attains. 2. In this very life, I hold myself free from enmity and hatred, sorrowless and well. This is the second comfort. 3. If I do no ill, how can sorrow touch me? This is the third comfort. 4. If no ill be done by me, then in both ways do I behold myself utterly pure. This is the fourth comfort he attains. Thus, Calamaz, the Aryan disciple attains these 4 comforts. Paragraph 10. So it is, exalted one, so it is, well-farer. The Aryan disciple attains these 4 comforts in this very life, and they repeated all that had been said. Wonderful, sir, marvelous, sir. We here do go for refuge to the exalted one, to the Dhamma and the order of monks. May the exalted one accept us as lay followers, going for refuge from this day forth as long as life lasts. Dhammapada verses. Verse 52. Like a beautiful flower that possesses both color and perfume, so well-spoken words are fruitful to one who practices it. Verse 53. As from a heap of flowers, one may make many garlands. Even so, one who is born as a mortal man should perform many good deeds. Verse 54. The perfume of flowers goes not against the wind, nor does that of sandal, tagara, or malika. But the perfume of the virtuous goes against the wind. The righteous man pervades every direction. Verse 55. Above and beyond all varieties of perfume, whether of sandal or of lotus, or of tagara or vasi, The perfume of virtue is the best. Verse 56. Of little account is this perfume, the perfume of tagara or sandal. The perfume of the virtuous is the finest, that is wafted even to the gods. Lesson 20. Lesser Discourse Tamalunkya Putta. Kula Malunkya Putta Sutta. Abridged. Paragraph 1. Thus have I heard. At one time the Lord was staying near Savatthi in the Jeddah Grove at Anathapindika's monastery. Then a thought occurred to the Venerable Malunkya Putta as he was meditating in solitary seclusion. There are these problems unexplained, put aside and ignored by the Lord, namely, 1. The world is eternal. 2. Or it is not eternal. 3. The universe is finite. 4. Or it is infinite. 5. Life is the same as body. 6. Or life is one thing and body another. 7. The Tathagata exists after death. 8. Or the Tathagata does not exist after death. 9. The Tathagata both exists and does not exist after death. 10. The Tathagata neither exists nor not exists after death. The Lord does not explain these problems to me. The fact that the Lord does not explain these to me does not please me, does not satisfy me. I will go to the Lord and question him on this matter. If the Lord explains them to me, I will fare the Brahma faring under the Lord. But if he does not, then I will disavow the training and return to secular life. Paragraph 2. Then the Venerable Malunkya Putta, emerging from solitary meditation, approached the Lord, saluted him, sat at one side, and said, Lord, there are these problems, as above. If the Lord knows the world is eternal, let him explain it to me. If the Lord does not know whether the world is eternal or not, etc., then not knowing, not seeing, it would be straightforward to say, I do not know, I do not see. But did I ever speak to you? Come, Malunkya Putta, fare the Brahma faring under me, and I will explain these questions to you? No, Lord. Or did you ever speak thus to me? Sir, I will fare the Brahma faring under the Lord, if the Lord will explain these questions to me. No, Lord. So it is agreed that neither did I say, Come and fare the Brahma faring under me, and I will explain these questions to you, nor did you say, Sir, I will fare the Brahma faring. This being so, you foolish man, who are you and what are you disavowing? Paragraph 3. Malunkya Putta, whoever should speak thus, I will not fare the Brahma faring under the Lord until the Lord explains these questions to me. This man might die with these questions unanswered by the Tathagata. It is Malunkya Putta, as if a man were pierced by a thickly poisoned arrow, and his relatives were to procure a surgeon. He might speak thus, I will not have this arrow drawn out until I know who shot me, whether he is a Kshatriya, noble, or Brahmin or Vesa, merchant, or Sudha, servant, whether he is tall or short, black or golden, from which village or town he comes. I will not have this arrow drawn out until I know of the bow, the bowstring, the arrow, the feathers, the sinews. Malunkya Putta, that man would die without knowing any of these things. Paragraph 4. Even so, Malunkyaputta, if anyone says, I will not fare the Brahma faring, he would die with these questions unanswered by the Tathagata. Malunkyaputta, the Brahma faring, could not be said to depend on these views. Whatever opinion one may have about these problems, there is birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, the cessation of which, Nibbana, I declare in this very life. Paragraph 5. Therefore, Malunkyaputta, bear in mind what I have not explained as unexplained, and what I have explained as explained. And Malunkyaputta, what has not been explained, whether the world is eternal, and why have I not explained this? Because it is not connected with the goal, not fundamental to the Brahma faring, not conducive to aversion, detachment, cessation, calming, superknowledge, awakening, Nibbana. That is why I have not explained this. Paragraph 6. And Malunkyaputta, what has been explained? I have explained, this is dukkha, this is the origin of dukkha, this is the cessation of dukkha, and this is the path leading to the cessation of dukkha. And why have I explained this? Because it is connected with the goal, fundamental to the Brahma faring, conducive to aversion, detachment, cessation, calming, superknowledge, awakening, Nibbana. That is why I have explained this. Paragraph 7. Thus spoke the Lord. The Venerable Malunkyaputta was delighted and welcomed what the Lord had said. 6 forms of meditation. Dhammapada verses. Verse 296. Well awake and watchful ever are the disciples of Gautama, Gautama Savaka. They who meditate constantly, both by day and by night, on the Buddha. Verse 297. Well awake and watchful ever are the disciples of Gautama, they who meditate constantly, both by day and by night, on the Dhamma. Verse 298. Well awake and watchful ever are the disciples of Gautama, they who meditate constantly, both by day and by night, on the Sangha. Verse 299. Well awake and watchful ever are the disciples of Gautama, they who meditate constantly, both by day and by night, on the body, Kaya. Verse 300. Well awake and watchful ever are the disciples of Gautama, they whose minds delight, both by day and by night, in non-injury. Ahimsa. Verse 301. Well awake and watchful ever are the disciples of Gautama, they whose minds delight, both by day and by night, in meditation. Bhavana. Lesson 21. The Elder Sister Khema, abridged. Paragraph 1. Once the Lord was staying near Savatthi at Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's monastery. Now the Sister Khema, after going her rounds among the Kosalans, took up her residence at Taranavatu near Savatthi. Then, as King Pasenadi of Kosala was journeying to Savatthi, he called a man, saying, Good fellow, find out some recluse so that I can wait upon him today. Paragraph 2. Even so, your majesty, said that man in reply to the king, and after wandering through the town, he saw no recluse on whom the king might wait. Then he saw the elder sister Khema, who had come to reside there. He went back to the king, saying, Your Majesty, there is no recluse upon whom your Majesty can wait, But there is a sister named Kema, a woman disciple of the Lord, the Arhat, the fully self-awakened one. Now of this lady a lovely rumor has gone abroad, that she is a sage, accomplished, widely learned, a brilliant talker, of good ready wit. Let your majesty wait upon her. Paragraph 3. So King Pasenadi went to visit the sister Kema, and on coming saluted her, and sat down at one side, saying, How say thou, lady, does the Tathagata exist after death? Great king, that is not revealed by the Lord. How say thou, lady, so the Tathagata does not exist after death? That also, great king, is not revealed by the Lord. What then, lady? Does the Tathagata both exist and not exist after death? That also, great king, is not revealed by the Lord. Then, lady, the Tathagata neither exists nor not exists after death. That also, great king, is not revealed by the Lord. Paragraph 4. How then, lady, when asked, Does the Tathagata exist after death? You reply, That is not revealed by the Lord. And when I ask the other questions, you make the same reply. Pray, lady, what is the reason, what is the cause, why this thing is not revealed by the Lord? Now in this matter, great king, I will question you. Do you reply as you think fit? Now, great king, have you some accountant able to count the sand of the Ganges thus? There are so many 100 grains, or so many thousand, or so many hundreds of thousands of grains? No, indeed, lady. Then have you some reckoner able to reckon the water in the mighty ocean thus? There are so many gallons of water, so many hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. No, indeed, lady. How is that? Mighty is the ocean, lady, deep, boundless, unfathomable. Paragraph 5. Even so, great king, if one should try to define the Tathagata by his bodily form, that form of the Tathagata is abandoned, cut down to the root, made like a palm tree stump, so that it cannot spring up again in the future. Set free from reckoning as body is the Tathagata, deep, boundless, unfathomable, just like the mighty ocean is the Tathagata. To say the Tathagata exists after death does not apply. To say the Tathagata does not exist after death does not apply. If one should try to define the Tathagata by feeling, by perception, by consciousness, that feeling of the Tathagata is abandoned. Set free from reckoning by feeling, by perception, activities, consciousness is the Tathagata. Deep, boundless, unfathomable, like the mighty ocean. The king Pasenadi of Kosala was delighted with the words of Sister Kema and welcomed them. Rising from his seat, he saluted her by the right and went away. Paragraph 6. On another occasion, the king went to visit the Lord, and coming, he saluted him and sat down at one side, saying, Pray, Lord, does the Tathagata exist after death? Not revealed by me, great king, is this matter. Then, Lord, does the Tathagata does not exist after death? That also, great king, is not revealed by me. He then asked the other questions and got the same reply exactly as before. Wonderful, Lord, marvelous it is. Lord, how the explanation both of master and disciple, both in spirit and in letter, will agree, will harmonize, will not be inconsistent. That is, in any word about the highest. Once, Lord, I went to visit the sister Kema and asked her the meaning of this matter, and she gave me the meaning in the very words, in the very sentences used by the Lord. Wonderful, Lord, marvelous it is, Lord, the same as above. Then King Pasenadi rose from his seat, saluted the Lord by the right, and went away. Dhammapada verses. Verse 383. Strive and cleave the stream, drive away lusts, O Brahmana. Knowing the destructions of life's elements, Sankara, you shall know the uncreated, Nibbana. Verse 384. When a Brahmana has crossed to the farther shore of two states, then all the fetters fall away from that knowing one. Verse 386. He who is meditative, stainless, who has done his duty, he who is free from all corruptions, asava, he who has attained the highest goal, him I call a Brahmana. Verse 387. By day shines the sun, by night gleams the moon. The warrior shines in his armor. The Brahmana shines in meditation. But all the day and all the night the Buddha shines in glory. Verse 388. Because a man has put away evil, he is called a Brahmana. Because he lives in quietude, he is called a bhikkhu, samana. Because he gives up all impurities, he is called a recluse, pabajita. Lesson 22. Discourse on all the cankers. Sabbasafa Sutta, abridged. Part 1. Paragraph 1. Thus have I heard. The Lord was once staying near Savatthi at the Jeddah Grove in Anathapindika's monastery. There he addressed the bhikkhus, saying, Bhikkhus, revered one, they replied to him. The Lord spoke as follows. I will discourse to you, bhikkhus, on the method of controlling all the cankers. Listen and attend carefully, and I will speak. Yes, Lord, the bhikkhus answered, the Lord in assent. Paragraph 2. The Lord spoke thus. Bhikkhus, I say that the destruction of the cankers is possible for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and does not see. And what, bhikkhus, is the destruction of the cankers for one who knows and sees? There are wise attention and unwise attention. Bhikkhus, from unwise attention arise cankers that have not arisen, and also cankers that have arisen increase. But bhikkhus, from wise attention, cankers that have not arisen do not arise, and also cankers that have arisen decline. Paragraph 3. There are, bhikkhus, 1. Cankers that should be got rid of by vision. 2. There are cankers that should be got rid of by control. 3. There are cankers that should be got rid of by use. 4. There are cankers that should be got rid of by endurance. 5. There are cankers that should be got rid of by avoidance. 6. There are cankers that should be got rid of by elimination. 7. There are cankers that should be got rid of by cultivation. Paragraph 4. And what, bhikkhus, are the cankers to be got rid of by vision? Herein, bhikkhus, an uninstructed ordinary man, who does not see the noble ones, who is unskilled in the Dhamma of the noble ones, untrained in the Dhamma of the noble ones, who does not see the true men, who is unskilled in the Dhamma of the true men, untrained in the Dhamma of the true men, does not understand the things that should be attended to and the things that should not be attended to. Knowing the things that should be attended to and the things that should not be attended to, he attends to those things which should not be attended to, and does not attend to those which should be attended to. Paragraph 5. And what, bhikkhus, are the things which should not be attended to, but to which he attends? From his unwise attention to these things arises in him the canker of sense pleasure, which has not yet arisen, or the canker of sense pleasure arisen, increases. Or arises the canker of becoming, which has not yet arisen, or the canker of becoming arisen, increases. Or arises the canker of ignorance, which has not yet arisen, or the canker of ignorance arisen, increases. Then these are the things to which he attends, but which should not be attended to. Paragraph 6. And what, bhikkhus, are the things that should be wisely attended to, but to which he does not attend? From his wise attention to these things, either the canker of sense pleasure, which has not arisen, does not arise, or the canker of sense pleasure, which has arisen, declines, or the canker of becoming, or the canker of ignorance, which has arisen, declines. These are the things that should be wisely attended to, but to which he does not attend. He does not wisely attend in this way if he thinks. Paragraph 7. Was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what? What did I become in the past? Now will I come to be in the future? Will I not come to be in the future? What will I come to be in the future? How will I come to be in the future? Having become what? What will I come to be in the future? Or now he is doubtful about himself at the present time. Now am I? Now am I not? Now, what am I? How am I? Whence has this being come? Where will he come to be? Paragraph 8. To one who does not pay wise attention in this way, one of 6 wrong views arises. 1. There is for me a self. This view arises as though it were true, as though it were real. Or 2. There is not for me a self. Or 3. By self I perceive self. Or 4. By self I perceive no self. Or 5. By no self I perceive self. This view arises in him as true, as real. Or 6. A wrong view arises in him thus. It is this self for me that speaks, that feels, that experiences now, here now. They are the fruit of good and bad deeds. It is this self for me that is permanent, stable, eternal, unchanging, remaining the same forever. Paragraph 9. This, bhikkhus, is called becoming enmeshed in wrong views. A jungle of views, a wilderness of views, the scuffling of views, the struggle of views, the fetter of views, bhikkhus, fettered by the fetter of views. The uninstructed ordinary man is not freed from birth, aging, and death, from sorrows, lamentations, pains, grief, despair. I say that he is not freed from suffering. Part 2, paragraph 10. And bhikkhus, the instructed noble disciple who sees the noble ones, who is skilled in the Dhamma of the noble ones, well trained in the Dhamma of the noble ones, who sees the true men, who is skilled in the Dhamma of true men, well trained in the Dhamma of the true men, comprehends the things that should be wisely attended to. The things that should not be attended to, he does not attend to things that should not be attended to. And he wisely attends to things that should be attended to. Paragraph 11. And what, bhikkhus, are the things that he does not attend to because he should not be attended to? These are the things by attending to which there arises the canker of sense pleasure, or the canker of becoming, or the canker of ignorance. The same as paragraph 3. And what are the things to which he attends because they should be attended to? These are the things, bhikkhus, by wisely attending to which, A. There does not arise the canker of sense pleasure, or the canker of becoming, or the canker of ignorance, or B. The canker of sense pleasure, or the canker of becoming, or the canker of ignorance arising declines. Paragraph 12. Then thinking, this is dukkha, he wisely attends. This is the origin of dukkha. This is the cessation of dukkha. This is the path leading to the cessation of dukkha. Because he wisely attends to thus the three fetters, wrong view on one's own body, doubt, attachment to rites, and ceremonies, decline bhikkhus. These are called the cankers to be got rid of by vision. Paragraph 13. And what bhikkhus are the cankers to be got rid of by control? Herein, a bhikkhu, wisely reflective, lives with control over his eye, his ear, his nose, his tongue, his body, his mind. Bhikkhus, if he lives without control over these sense organs, cankers which are destructive and consuming might arise. But if he lives controlled, then the cankers are not. Bhikkhus, these are called the cankers to be got rid of by control. Paragraph 14. And what bhikkhus are the cankers to be got rid of by use? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu, wisely reflected, uses robes simply to keep off the cold, the heat, flies, the wind, the sun, and to cover himself decently. He uses alms food not for sport, not for indulgence, not for personal beauty, not for adornment, but only to support and sustain this body, to keep it unharmed, to foster the holy life, thinking, in this way I put out former feelings and will not produce new ones, and here will be for me faultlessness and living in comfortness. He uses lodgings only to keep off the heat, the cold, for the purpose of enjoying seclusion. He uses medicines for the sick only to get rid of the pains of illnesses and to maintain his health. Bhikkhus, if he does not use the four requisites, the cankers which are destructive and consuming might arise. But because he uses them, these cankers are not. These are called the cankers to be got rid of by use. Paragraph 15. And bhikkhus, what are the cankers to be got rid of by endurance? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu wisely reflective is one who bears cold, heat, hunger, thirst, flies, wind, sun, abusive and hurtful speech, bodily feelings which are painful, acute, sharp, miserable, deadly. Bhikkhus, if he lacks endurance, the cankers which are destructive and consuming might arise. But because he endures them thus, these cankers are not. These are called the cankers to be got rid of by endurance. Paragraph 16. And bhikkhus, what are the cankers to be got rid of by avoidance? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu wisely reflective avoids a wild elephant, horse, bull, dog, snake, a pit, a pool. He also avoids sitting in improper seats and frequenting unseemly resorts and associating with bad friends, for which his wise fellow Brahmacharis would suspect him of wicked qualities. Bhikkhus, if he does not avoid these occasions, the cankers which are destructive and consuming might arise. But if he avoids them, these cankers are not. Paragraph 17. And what are the cankers to be got rid of by elimination? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu wisely reflective does not tolerate thought of sense pleasures that has arisen. He gets rid of it. He eliminates it, makes an end of it, extinguishes it. He does not tolerate thought of ill will. He does not tolerate thought of harming. He does not tolerate evil and unwholesome mental objects that have constantly arisen. Bhikkhus, if he does not eliminate these thoughts, the cankers which are destructive and consuming might arise. But if he eliminates them, therefore these cankers are not. These are called cankers to be got rid of by elimination. Paragraph 18. And what bhikkhus are cankers to be got rid of by cultivation? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu wisely reflective cultivates mindfulness as a limb of awakening, which is dependent on aloofness, dispassion, cessation, leading to renunciation. He cultivates investigation of the Dhamma as a limb of awakening, energy, joy, serenity, concentration, even-mindedness. Bhikkhus, if he does not cultivate these limbs of awakening, the cankers which are destructive and consuming might arise. But if he does, therefore these cankers are not. These are called the cankers to be got rid of by cultivation. Paragraph 19. In whatever bhikkhu the cankers which are to be got rid of by vision have been got rid of by vision, by control, by use, by endurance, by avoidance, by elimination, by cultivation, this bhikkhu is called one who is controlled with control over all the cankers. He has cut off craving, got rid of fetters, and by fathoming pride, has put an end to suffering. Paragraph 20. Thus spoke the Lord. The bhikkhus rejoiced at the words of the Lord and welcomed them. Dhammapada verses. Verse 157. If one holds oneself dear, one should guard oneself well. During any of the 3 watches of the night, a wise man should keep himself watchful. Verse 158. A man should first establish himself in what is proper, and then instruct others. Such a wise man will not get defiled. Verse 159. Let a man make himself what he instructs others to do. Being himself well controlled, he may control others. Very difficult to control is the self. Verse 161. By oneself alone is evil done. It is born of self, created by self. Evil grinds a foolish one, as a diamond grinds a hard gem. Verse 165. By oneself alone is evil done. By oneself alone is one defiled. By oneself alone is evil left undone. By oneself alone is one purified. Purity and impurity depend on oneself. No one can purify another. Lesson 23. Excerpts from Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Book of the Great Decease. Part 1. Paragraph 1. Now when the Exalted One had entered upon the retreat in the rainy season at Baluva, there fell upon him a dire sickness, and sharp pains came, even to death. But the Exalted One, mindful and self-possessed, bore them without complaint. Then this thought occurred to him. It would not be right for me to pass away without addressing the attendant disciples, without taking leave of the order. Let me now, by a strong effort of the will, bend this sickness down and keep my hold on life till the allotted time comes. Paragraph 2. Now very soon after the Exalted One began to recover, and when he had quite got rid of the sickness, he came out from his lodging and sat down in the shadow thereof on a seat spread out there. And the Venerable Ananda went to the place where the Exalted One was, and saluted him, and took a seat respectfully on one side, and addressed the Exalted One, saying, I have beheld, Lord, how the Exalted One was in health, and I have beheld how the Exalted One had to suffer. And though at the sight of the sickness of the Exalted One, my body became weak as a creeper, and the horizon became dim before me, and my faculties were no longer clear, yet I took some little comfort from the thought that the Exalted One would not pass away until he had left instructions concerning the order. Paragraph 3. What then, Ananda? Does the order expect that of me? I have preached the truth, Dhamma, without making any distinction between exoteric and esoteric doctrine. For in respect of truths, the Tathagata has no such thing as the closed fist of a teacher who keeps something back. Surely, Ananda, should there be anyone who harbors the thought, "It is I who will lead the brotherhood," or "the order is dependent upon me," it is he who should lay down instructions in any matter concerning the order. Now the Tathagata, Ananda, thinks not that it is he who should lead the brotherhood, or that the order is dependent upon him. Why then should he leave instructions in any matter concerning the order? I too, O Ananda, am now grown old and full of years. My journey is drawing to its close. I have reached my sum of days. I am turning 80 years of age. Paragraph 4. Therefore, O Ananda, be ye lamps to yourselves. Be ye a refuge to yourselves. Betake yourselves to no external refuge. Hold fast to the truth, Dhamma, as a lamp. Hold fast as a refuge to the truth. Look not for refuge to anyone besides yourselves. And how, Ananda, is a brother to be a lamp to himself, a refuge to himself, betaking himself to no external refuge, holding fast to the truth as a lamp, looking not for refuge to anyone besides himself? Paragraph 5. Herein, O mendicants, a brother lives observing the body in the body, ardent, self-possessed, and mindful, so as to overcome the hankering and dejection in the world. And in the same way, he lives observing feelings, mental states, and mental objects. Paragraph 6. And whoever, Ananda, either now or after I am dead, shall be a lamp to themselves and a refuge to themselves, shall betake themselves to no external refuge, but holding fast to the truth as their lamp, and holding fast as their refuge to the truth, shall look not for refuge to anyone besides themselves. It is they, Ananda, among my bhikkhus, who shall reach the very topmost height. But they must be anxious to learn. Part 2, Paragraph 1. On one occasion, Ananda, I was resting under the Nigorada tree on the bank of the river Naranjara, right after the Supreme Enlightenment. Then Mara, the evil one, came to the place and addressed me. Pass away now, Lord, from existence. Now is the time for the wayfarer to pass away. Paragraph 2. And when he had thus spoken, I addressed Mara, saying, I shall not pass away, O evil one, until not only the brothers and sisters of the order, but also the male and female lay disciples shall have become true hearers, wise and well-trained and well-learned, carrying the teachings in their memory, masters of the doctrine, correct in life, walking according to the precepts, until they, having thus themselves learned the law, shall be able to preach it. Make it known, establish it, minutely explain it, and make it clear, until they, when others start a false doctrine, shall be able to refute it and spread the wonderful truth abroad. I shall not die until this Brahma faring under me shall have become successful, prosperous, widespread, and popular, and in a word, well proclaimed among human beings. Part 3. Paragraph 1. Now the Exalted One addressed the Venerable Ananda, saying, Ananda, let us go on to the Sala Grove of the Mallas at Kusinara. Even so, Lord, said the Venerable Ananda in assent to the Lord. Spread over for me, Ananda, the couch with its head to the north, between the twin Sala trees. Paragraph 2. Now at that time the twin Sala trees were all one mass of bloom, with flowers out of season, and all over the body of the Exalted One they dropped and sprinkled and scattered themselves, out of reverence for the successor of the past Buddhas. And heavenly Mandarava flowers too, and heavenly sandalwood powder came falling from the sky, and all over the body of the Tathagata. they descended and sprinkled out of reverence for the successor of the Buddhas of old. And heavenly music was sounded in the sky, and heavenly songs came wafted from the sky, out of reverence for the successor of the Buddhas of old. Paragraph 3. Then the Exalted One addressed the Venerable Ananda, saying, "The twin solid trees are all one mass of bloom. All over the body of the Tathagata they dropped, and heavenly mandava follows too, and heavenly sandalwood powder came falling, and heavenly music sounds in the sky, and heavenly songs come wafted from the sky out of reverence for the successor of the Buddhas of old." Paragraph 4. Now it is not thus, Ananda, that the Tathagata is rightly honored, reverenced, held sacred, but the brother or the sister, the devout layman or woman, who continually fulfills all the greater and the lesser duties, who is correct in life, walking according to the precepts, it is he or she who rightly honors, reverences, holds sacred the Tathagata with the worthiest homage. Therefore, Ananda, be constant in the fulfillment of the greater and lesser duties, be correct in life, walking according to the precepts, and thus, Ananda, should it be taught. Dhammapada verses. Verse 160. For self is the refuge of self. How can one man be the refuge of another? For by his own well-tamed self, a man gains for himself a refuge hard to gain. Verse 338. As a tree, though cut down, grows up again, if its roots be undamaged and firm, even so, if latent craving is not rooted out, this sorrow springs up again and again. Verse 340. The streams flow everywhere as the creeper sprouts and spreads, seeing the creeper that has sprung up with wisdom cut off the root. Verse 379. By self do you censure yourself, by self do you examine yourself. Guard thyself, be mindful, O bhikkhu, thou shalt live in happiness. 380. Self is the protector of self. Self is one's refuge. There control yourself as a merchant controls a noble steed. Lesson 24. Discourse on the Foundation of Mindfulness. Satipatthana Sutta, abridged. A. Introduction. The origin of the discourse. Thus have I heard. The Blessed One was once staying among the Kurus at a market town called Kamasadama. There the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus and spoke as follows. This is the only way, bhikkhus, for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the destruction of suffering and grief, for winning the right path, for realizing nibbana, namely, the four foundations of mindfulness. What are the four? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu ardent, self-possessed, and mindful, lives contemplating the body in the body, so as to overcome the hankering and dejection in the world. He lives contemplating the feelings in the feelings, so as to overcome the hankering and dejection in the world. He lives contemplating the mind in the mind, so as to overcome the hankering and dejection in the world. He lives contemplating the mental objects in the mental objects, so as to overcome the hankering and dejection in the world. B. Main divisions. I. Body contemplation. And how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu live contemplating the body in the body? 1. Breathing. Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty place, sits down cross-legged, holding his body erect and arousing mindfulness in front of him. Mindful he breathes in, and mindful he breathes out. Breathing in a long breath, he comprehends, I am breathing in a long breath. or breathing out a long breath, he comprehends, I am breathing out a long breath. Or breathing in a short breath, he comprehends, I am breathing in a short breath. Breathing out a short breath, he comprehends, I am breathing out a short breath. He trains himself thinking, experiencing the whole body, I shall breathe in. He trains himself thinking, experiencing the whole body, I shall breathe out. He trains himself thinking, calming the activities of the body, I shall breathe in. Calming the activities of the body, I shall breathe out. Thus he lives contemplating the body internally or externally, or both internally and externally. He lives contemplating origination things in the body, or he lives contemplating dissolution things in the body, or he lives contemplating origination, dissolution things in the body, or thinking, there is the body. His mindfulness is established to the extent necessary just for knowledge and remembrance, and he lives independently, not grasping anything in the world. Thus, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu lives contemplating the body in the body. 2. Postures of the body. And again, bhikkhus, when he is going, a bhikkhu comprehends, I am going. Or when he is standing, he comprehends, I am standing. Or when he is sitting down, he comprehends, I am sitting down. Or when he is lying down, he comprehends, I am lying down. So he comprehends just how his body is disposed. 3. Full awareness. And again, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu is aware of going forward or backward, of looking straight or looking away, bending or stretching his arm, of wearing robes or carrying a bowl, of eating, drinking, in going, standing, sitting, sleeping, waking, talking, or keeping silence. He knows what he is doing. Thus he lives contemplating the body in the body. 4. Reflection on the impurities of the body. Moreover, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu reflects on just this body itself, from the sole upward to the crown of his head, enclosed in skin and full of impurities, thinking, there are in this body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, lungs, bowels. Bhikkhus, it is like a double-mouthed provision bag, full of various kinds of grain, and a man with eyes pouring them out should reflect thus, this is paddy, this is bean, this is rice. 5. Reflection on the elements. And moreover, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu reflects just on this body according to how it is placed in respect of the elements, thinking, there are in this body the 4 elements of solidity, fluidity, heat, and motion. Thus he lives contemplating the body in the body. 6. Cemetery reflection. And moreover, bhikkhus, as a bhikkhu might see a dead body thrown for 1 day or 2, 3 days in a cemetery, he thinks of his own body thus, this body too is of the same nature as that one, and it has not got past that state of becoming like that. And moreover, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu might see a body eaten by hawks, crows, or reduced to a skeleton with flesh and blood, sinew-bowed, or fleshless and blood besmeared, or without flesh and blood, or the bones scattered here and there, or white bones like seashells, or a heap of dried bones, or bones rotten and reduced to powder. He reflects on his own body thus, this body too is of the same nature as that one, and it has not got past that state. Thus he lives contemplating the body in the body. 2. Contemplation on feelings. And how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu live contemplating the feelings in the feelings? Herein, bhikkhus, while experiencing a pleasant feeling, a bhikkhu comprehends, I experience a pleasant feeling. While experiencing a painful feeling, he comprehends. I experience a painful feeling. While experiencing a neither pleasant nor painful feeling, he comprehends. I experience a neither pleasant nor painful feeling. While experiencing a pleasant worldly feeling, a pleasant spiritual feeling, or a painful worldly feeling, or a painful spiritual feeling, or a neither pleasant nor painful worldly feeling, or a neither pleasant nor painful spiritual feeling, he comprehends that. Thus he lives contemplating the feelings in the feelings, internally or externally, or origination things in the feelings, or dissolution things in the feelings, or origination dissolution things in the feelings, or thinking, there is feeling. His mindfulness is established to the extent necessary just for knowledge and remembrance, and he lives independently, not grasping anything in the world. Thus, bhikkhus, he lives contemplating the feelings in the feelings. 3. Contemplation on mind. And how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu live contemplating the mind in the mind? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu knows 1. The mind with lust as a mind with lust. 2. The mind without lust as without lust. 3. The mind with hate as with hate. 4. The mind without hate as without hate. 5. The mind with delusion as with delusion. 6. The mind without delusion as without delusion. 7. The shrunken state of mind as the shrunken state. 8. The distracted state of mind as the distracted state. 9. The developed state of mind as the developed state. 10. The underdeveloped state of mind as the underdeveloped. 11. The mind with some other mental state superior to it as the mind with some other mental state superior to it. 12. The mind with no other mental state superior to it as the mind with no other mental state superior to it. 13. The concentrated state of mind as the concentrated state. 14. The unconcentrated state of mind as the unconcentrated state. 15. The freed state of mind as the free state. 16. The unfreed state of mind as the unfreed state. Thus he lives contemplating the mind in the mind, internally or externally, or internally or externally. Or he lives contemplating origination things, or dissolution things, or origination dissolution things in the mind, or thinking, there is mind. His mindfulness is established to the extent necessary for knowledge and remembrance, and he lives independently and grasping after nothing in the world. Thus he lives contemplating the mind in the mind. 4. Contemplation on mental objects. Dhamma. 1. The 5 hindrances. And how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu live contemplating mental objects in mental objects? Herein, a bhikkhu lives contemplating the mental objects concerning the 5 hindrances. Bhikkhus, when a sense desire is present, he knows, I have within me sense desire. Or again, when a sense desire is not present, he knows, I have no sense desire. He knows how the non-arisen sense desire arises. He knows how the arisen sense desire disappears. And he knows of the non-arising in future of that abandoned sense desire. Concerning anger, torpor, and languor, restlessness and worry, doubt, he knows the same. 2. The 5 aggregates of grasping. And how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu live contemplating the 5 aggregates of grasping as mental objects? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu thinks, such is material form, such is the arising of material form, such is its passing away, such is feeling, such is its arising, such is its passing away. Such is perception, such is its arising, such is its passing away. Such are the mental formations, such is their arising, such is their passing away. Such is consciousness, such its arising, such its passing away. Thus he lives contemplating the 5 aggregates of grasping as mental objects internally or externally, or internally and externally, or origination things, or dissolution things, or origination-dissolution things, in the 5 aggregates of grasping. 3. The 6 internal-external sense bases. And moreover, how does a bhikkhu live contemplating the 6 internal-external sense bases as mental objects? Herein, a bhikkhu knows the eye and visual forms, the fetter that arises dependent on both eye and forms. He knows the arising of the fetter not arisen before, and the passing away of the arisen fetter. And he knows the non-arising in future of the abandoned fetter. He knows the ear and sounds, the nose and smells, the tongue and tastes, the body and tactile objects, the mind and mental objects, and the fetter that arises dependent on both. He knows. Thus he lives contemplating the 6 internal and external sense bases as mental objects. 4. The 7 factors of awakening. And how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu live contemplating the mental objects concerning the 7 factors of awakening? Herein, 1. When the awakening factor of mindfulness is present, he knows that it is present. When it is absent, he knows that it is absent. He knows the arising of the non-arisen awakening factor of mindfulness. He knows the full development of such arisen mindfulness. He knows the same about the awakening factor of investigation, of energy, of joy, of serenity, of concentration, of equanimity. Thus he lives contemplating the mental objects concerning the 7 factors of awakening. 5. The 4 Noble Truths. And moreover, how, bhikkhus, does a bhikkhu live contemplating the mental objects concerning the 4 Noble Truths? Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu comprehends as it really is. This is suffering, dukkha. He comprehends it really is, the origin of suffering, samudaya. He comprehends as it really is. This is the cessation of suffering, nirodha. He comprehends as it really is. This is the path leading to the cessation of suffering, magga. Thus he lives contemplating the mental objects internally or externally. C. Conclusion. The fruition of the culture of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Bhikkhus, whoever should thus develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness for 7 years, one of these 2 fruits may be expected by him. Either knowledge, arahantship, here now, or if some remainder of clinging is present, the state of non-returning. Bhikkhus, let alone 7 years. Should anyone thus develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness for 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, then one of these 2 fruits may be expected by him. Bhikkhus, let alone 1 year. Should anyone thus develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness for 7 months, 6 months, half a month, then one of these 2 fruits may be expected by him. Bhikkhus, let alone half a month. Should anyone thus develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness for a week, then one of these 2 fruits may be expected by him. Because of this, it was said, this is the only way, bhikkhus, for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the destruction of suffering and grief, for winning the right path, for realizing Nibbana, namely, the four foundations of mindfulness. Thus spoke the Blessed One. Delighted, the bhikkhus rejoiced at what the Blessed One had said. Dhammapada verses. Verse 373. The monk who enters an empty abode with tranquil heart experiences a joy transcending that of men through his right discernment of the law. Verse 375. This is the proper beginning for a wise monk. Sense control, contentment, restraint under the fundamental rules, association with virtuous friends whose lives are pure. Verse 376. One should be cordial in manner, one should be upright in conduct, so will one experience profound joy and make an end of ill. Verse 377. As the jasmine creeper sheds its withered flowers, even so, monks, should you shed lust and hatred. Verse 378. The monk who is calm in body, calm in speech, calm in mind, who is well composed, who has rejected worldly things, is truly called a peaceful one. Book 3, Chapter 2, Supplementary Lessons. Lesson number 1. Kataka's Mansion. Kataka Vimana. The Blessed One was staying at Savatthi in Jeddah Grove at a time when the Venerable Maha Moggallana was on a diva tour. Kantaka, a diva youth, coming out of his dwelling, was driving to the park with a great retinue and with great diva potency. Seeing the Venerable Maha Moggallana, he hastily alighted from his vehicle and saluted him. And the elder asked him, 1. As the moon at the full, the overlord of stars, the hair-marked, surrounded by the constellations, proceeds around. 2. So does this diva-like abode shine forth with a beauty in a diva city like the rising sun. 3. Of beryl, of gold, and of crystal and silver, begemmed with cat's eyes, with pearls and with rubies. 4. Gaily colored floor, delightful, with beryl paved, pinnacled halls, godly and lovely, your palace is well wrought. 5. And you have delightful lotus pools, frequented by the Pothuloma fish, the clear sparkling waters fringed with golden sand. 6. Covered with various lotuses, with white water lilies overspread, entrancing, fanned by the breeze, they waft a lovely fragrance around. 7. On its two sides are well-created woodland thickets, having both flowering trees and fruiting trees. 8. When you are seated like a diva king on a golden-footed divan, on a soft rug of cloth, nymphs wait on you. 9. Covered with all adornments, beautified with various garlands, they delight you who are of great psychic potency. Even as a Vasavatin, you rejoice. 10. With drum, conch, kettle drum, with lutes and tam-tams, you are filled with delight when dance, song, and sweet music prevail. 11. Manifold are these diva-like shapes, diva-like sounds, also savors and perfumes that are agreeable, and delightful the objects of touch. 12. In this glorious mansion, a diva youth of great luster, you shine forth with beauty like the rising sun. 13. Is this the fruit of your giving, or again, of moral habit, or of paying homage with clasped hands? When asked, make this known to me. 14. That diva youth, delighted at being questioned by Moggallana, when asked the question, explained of what deed this was the fruit. 15. In the superb city of Kapilavatu of the Sakyans, I was Kantaka. Kanatal with Suddhodana's son. 16. When at midnight he departed to seek for awakening, with soft net-like hands and copper-colored nails. 17. He patted my flank and said, "Bear me, friend. When I have attained supreme self-awakening, I will help the word across." 18. When I heard his voice, great joy was mine. With mind uplifted, happy, I neighed in compliance. 19. In knowing that the son of the Sakyans of great renown had mounted me, with mind uplifted, rejoicing, I bore the man supreme. 20. Having gone through others' territories, as the sun was rising, he went on, without any longing, leaving me and Chana behind. 21. With my tongue I licked his feet of copper-colored nails, and weeping, looked on as the great hero went. 22. Because I did not see the glorious Sakyan sun any more, I fell sore sick. Quickly I died. 23. And by his very majesty, I inhabit this diva-like mansion in a diva city, furnished with all modes of sense pleasures. 24. And whatever joy arose in me when I heard of his awakening, by that very root of skill I shall reach destruction of the cankers. 25. If you, reverend sir, should go into the presence of the teacher, the Buddha, with my words too, would you speak in homage at his feet? 26. I too will go to see the conqueror, man without an equal. Hard it is to see protectors of the world such as he. 27. And he, grateful, mindful of benefits, approached the teacher. When he had heard the voice of the one with the vision, he purified the vision of Dhamma. 28. Purified of misbelief, doubt, and vows, honoring the teacher's feet, he disappeared then and there. Lesson number 2. Rajumala's Mansion. Rajumala Vimana. The Blessed One was staying at Savatthi in Jeddah Grove. Now at the little village of Gaya, there lived a Brahmin who gave his daughter in marriage to a Brahmin's son. She in that house wielded authority, and took from the first a dislike to the daughter of a woman slave, scolding and abusing and hitting her. As the girl grew up, she treated her worse. It is said that in Kassapa Buddha's time, their relations had been reversed. To prevent her mistress from pulling her hair when she beat her, she went to the barber's shop and had her hair shaved. Then the mistress, in her anger, saying she could not escape her by shaving the head, bound a cord about it, pulled her down with it, and did not suffer her to remove it, hence her name. Now one day the teacher, emerging from attainment of great compassion, saw Rajumala's qualifications for the fruit of stream entry, and sat under a tree, emitting his rays. And wretched Rajumala, longing for death, took a jar and came along, pretending to go for water, and looked for a tree on which to hang herself. Seeing the Buddha, with heart drawn towards him, she thought, what if the Blessed One would teach Dhamma to people even like me? I might be delivered from my miserable life. And he, discerning, said to her, Rajumala. And she, as if anointed with ambrosia, drew near and saluted. He taught her the four truths, and she attained the fruit of stream entry. Next he went to the village and sat beneath a tree. Unable now to destroy herself, she thought with patience, amity, and kindness. Let the Brahmin lady hurt and injure me, or whatever she will, and went back, taking water in her jar. The master of the house stood at the door and said, You've been long in fetching that water, and your face is radiant. You appear to me in a completely different manner. What is it? She told him, and the Brahmin was pleased and went in saying, "Don't you do anything more to Rajumala." Then he went quickly to the teacher and reverently invited him to a meal. After that he, the daughter-in-law, and the Brahmin householders who had come in sat down near the teacher, who told them how things had been in that former life with her and Rajumala, with suitable discourse on Dhamma beside. He then returned to Savatthi, and the Brahmin made Rajumala his adopted daughter, while the daughter-in-law treated her gently. Reborn when she died among the 33, Rajumala also was interrogated by the Venerable Mahamoggallana. 1. You who stand with surpassing beauty, Devata, to the accompaniment of music, are dancing too, your hand and feet assuming various gestures. 2. While you are dancing with all your limbs in every way, diva-like sounds stream forth, delightful to hear. 3. While you are dancing with all your limbs in every way, diva-like scents are wafted around, sweet scents, delightful. 4. While you are swaying your body, the sound of the trinkets in your braided hair is heard like the fivefold instrumental music. 5. Eardrops breeze-blown, trembling in the breeze, the sound of these is heard like the fivefold instrumental music. 6. And the perfume of those sweet-scented, delightful garlands on your head heard blows in all directions like the Manjuosaka tree. 7. You breathe that sweet scent, you see unearthly beauty. Devata, when asked, tell of what deed this is the fruit. Asked thus by the elder, that Devata, beginning with her own former birth, explained in these verses. 8. Formerly I was a Brahmin slave girl at Gaya. Of little merit, unlucky, I was known a Rajumala. 9. Brought low by abuse, blows, and threats, I took a water jar, and going out went off to fetch water. 10. Casting the water jar away from the road, I entered a woodland thinking, here I will die, what use is life to me? 11. Having made a strong noose and slung it on a tree, I looked around. Who now dwells in the wood? 12. I saw there the self-awakened one, the sage friendly toward all the world, seated at the root of a tree, meditating, with fear from no quarter. 13. Then I had a wonderful, astounding thrill. Who now dwells in the wood, man or Devata? 14. Serene and faith-inspiring, from wood to open come, and what I saw brought peace of mind. This is not just anyone. 15. Sense faculties guarded, delighting in meditation, mind not astray, this must be the awakened one, friendly toward all the world. 16. Like a lion dwelling in its cave, arousing fear and awe, unassailable, it was a chance as rare to see as an udumbra or a flower. 17. With gentle words the Tathagata spoke to me. Rajumala, he said to me, go to the Tathagata for refuge. 18. When I had heard his voice, gentle, meaningful, sweet, soft, tender, and lovely, and dispelling all grief. 19. The Tathagata, friendly toward all the world, knowing that my mind was pliant, had faith and was pure, instructed me. 20. This is anguish, he said to me. This is the origin of anguish. This is the cessation of anguish, and the plunge into deathlessness is the direct way. 21. Standing firm in the advice of the compassionate, the skilled, I came to the deathless, to peace, nibbana, the unchanging state. 22. And I, standing firm with love, by belief aroused in what was basic and was unwavering in vision, own daughter to the awakened one. 23. And now I delight, I play, I rejoice with fear from no quarter. I wear a diva-like garland. I drink a sweet juice, inducing suppleness. 24. 60,000 musical instruments woke me from my sleep. Alamba, Gagara, Bhima, Sadhuvadin, and Samaya. 25. Pokhara and Supasa, Vinamokha, and other women, Nanda as well as Sunanda, Sonadina, Sukimita. 26. Alambusa, Misakesi, and the pitiless one called Pandarika, Anipasa, Supasa, and Supada, Muduvadini. 27. These and other more lovely devatas arose the nymphs from sleep. In the morning they come to me and say, Come, we will dance, we will sing. Come, let us delight you. 28. Not for those with deeds of merit not done, for those alone with deeds of merit done is this Nandana. Without grief, delightful, the great grove of the 33. 29. Not here nor beyond is there bliss for those with deeds of merit not done, but bliss there is here and beyond for those with deeds of merit done. 30. For such as long for companionship, by these much skill must be done, for they who have done deeds of merit delight, rejoice in heaven. 31. Tathagatas arise indeed for the welfare of many, worthy of men's gifts, sources for fields of merit wherein, having done a deed of homage, the givers rejoice in heaven. Lesson number 3. An Ode to the Buddha's Birth. Editor's Note. Sir Edwin Arnold, 1832 to 1904. English poet and scholar. Educated at Oxford University, he was appointed principal of the Poona College, Bombay, 1856 to 1861. The fruit of this Indian official tour is at its best in The Light of Asia or The Great Renunciation, 1879, a lyric poem of eulogy about Buddha Gautama of the Sakyas, which has made a considerable contribution to the Dhamma propagation among Westerners since then. In addition, he wrote a number of poems and translations from the Sanskrit. This is an excerpt from Chapter 1 of The Light of Asia. The scripture of the Savior of the world, Lord Buddha Prince Siddhartha styled on, earth and heavens and hells incomparable, all honored, wisest, best, most pitiful, the teacher of nirvana and the law. Thus he came to be born again for men. Below the highest sphere 4 regions sit, who rule our world, and under them are zones nearer, but high, where saintliest spirits dead wait thrice 10,000 years, then live again, and on Lord Buddha, waiting in that sky, came here for our sakes, the 5 sure signs of birth, so that the diva knew the signs, and said, Buddha will go again to help the world. Yea, spake he, now I go to help the world, the last of many times, for birth and death, and hence for me, and those who learn my law. I will go down among the Sakyas, under the southward snows of Himalaya, where pious people live, and a just king. That night the wife of King Suddhodana, Maya the queen, asleep beside her lord, dreamed a strange dreamed that a star from heaven, splendid, 6-rayed, in color rosy pearl, whereof the token was an elephant, 6-tusked, and white as milk of Kamaduk, shot through the void, and shining into her, entered her womb upon the right. Awaked, bliss beyond mortal mothers filled her breast, and over half the earth a lovely light forewent the morn. The strong hills shook, the waves sank lulled, all flowers that blow by day came forth, as 'twere high noon, down to the farthest hells, past the Queen's joy, as when warm sunshine thrills wood glooms to gold, and into all the deeps a tender whisper pierced. O ye, it said, the dead that are to live, the live who die, uprise and hear and hope. Buddha is come. Whereat in limbos numberless much peace spread, and the world's heart throbbed, and a wind blew with unknown freshness over lands and seas. And when the morning dawned, and this was told, the gray dream reader said, the dream is good. The crab is in conjunction with the sun. The queen shall bear a boy, a holy child of wondrous wisdom, profiting all flesh. Who shall deliver men from ignorance, or ruler the world, if he will deign to rule? In this wise was the holy Buddha born. Queen Maya stood at noon, her days fulfilled, under a palsa in the palace grounds, a stately trunk, straight as a temple shaft, with crown of glossy leaves and fragrant blooms. And knowing the time come for all things new, the conscious tree bent down its boughs to make a bower above Queen Maya's majesty. And earth put forth 1,000 sudden flowers to spread a couch, while ready for the bath, the rock hard by gave out a limpid stream of crystal flow. So brought she forth her child, pangless, he having on his perfect form the marks 32 of blessed birth, of which the great news to the palace came. But when they brought the painted palanquin to fetch him home, the bearers of poles were the 4 regions of the earth, come down from Mount Sumeru, they who write men's deeds on brazen plate, the angel of the east, whose hosts are clad in silver robes and bear targets of pearl, the angel of the south, whose horsemen, the Kumbandas, ride blue steeds with sapphire shields, the angel of the west by Nagas followed, riding steeds blood red with coral shields, the angel of the north, environed by his yakshas, all in gold, on yellow horses bearing shears of gold, these, with their pomp invisible, came down and took the poles, in cast and outward garb like bearers, yet most mighty gods, and gods walked free with men that day, though men knew not. For heaven was filled with gladness for earth's sake, knowing Lord Buddha thus was come again. But King Sudahana wist not of this. The portents troubled, till his dream readers angered a prince of earthly dominance. A Chakravartin, such as rise to rule, once in each 10,000 years. 7 gifts he has, the Chakraratna, this divine, the gem, the horse, the Asvaratna, that proud steed which tramps the cloud, a snow-white elephant, the Hastiratna, born to bear his king, the crafty minister, the general unconquered, and the wife of peerless grace, the Istri Ratna, lovelier than the dawn. For which gifts looking with this wondrous boy, the king gave order that his town should keep high festival. Therefore the ways were swept, rose odors sprinkled in the street. The trees were hung with lamps and flags, while merry crowds gaped on the sword players and posturers, the jugglers, charmers, swingers, rope walkers, the nautch girls in their spangled skirts, and bells that chime light laughter round their restless feet, the maskers wrapped in skins of bear and deer, the tiger tamers, wrestlers, quail fighters, beaters of drum and twanglers of wire, who made the people happy by command. Moreover, from afar came merchant men, bringing on tidings of this birth rich gifts in golden trays, goat shawls and nard and jade, turquoises, evening sky tint, woven webs so fine 12 folds hide not a modest face, waistcloths sewn thick with pearls and sandalwood, homage from tribute cities. So they called their prince Sarvatasid, all prospering, briefer Siddhartha. Amongst the strangers came a great-haired saint, Asita, on whose ears, long closed to earthly things, caught heavenly sounds, and heard at prayer beneath his peepal tree the devas singing songs at Buddha's birth. Wondrous in lore he was by age and fasts, him drawing nigh, seeming so reverend. The king saluted, and Queen Maya made to lay her babe before such holy feet. But when he saw the prince, the old man cried, "Ah, queen, not so!" And thereupon he touched 8 times the dust, laid his waste visage there, saying, "O babe, I worship, thou art he. I see the rosy light, the footsole marks, the soft curled tendril of the swastika, the sacred primal signs 32, the 8 lesser tokens. Thou art Buddha, and thou wilt preach the law and save all flesh, who learn the law, though I shall never hear, dying too soon, who lately longed to die. Howbeit I have seen thee. Know, O king, this is that blossom on our human tree, which opens once in many myriad years, but opened, fills the world with wisdom sent, and love's dropped honey, from royal root a heavenly lotus springs. Ah, happy house, yet not all happy, for a sword must pierce thy bowels for this boy, whilst thou swelt queen, dear to all gods and men for this great birth, henceforth art grown too sacred for more woe. And life is woe, therefore in 7 days, painless thou shalt attain the close of pain. Which fell, for on the 7th evening, Queen Maya smiling slept, and waked no more, passing content to Sita heaven, where countless devas worship her and wait attendant on that radiant mother head. But for the babe they found a foster nurse, Princess Mahabrajapati, her breast nourished with noble milk, the lips of him whose lips comfort the worlds. Lesson number 5. Suffering is closed where love is open. Venerable Sirs, esteemed representatives, on behalf of the Vietnam Buddhist Sangha and Vietnam ABCP National Center and all Vietnamese Buddhists, we would like to express the most respectful greetings and best wishes to the conference. Furthermore, we would like to send our sincere thanks to Laos ABCP National Center for having kindly invited us to attend this important and meaningful conference. Venerable Sirs, we are living in a world full of hatred and fear because terrorism, violence, and war often happen almost everywhere on earth. The world situation in recent years has terribly startled us, for many people have been deprived of their lives. Our dreams of peace are now fading, and the welfare and happiness of mankind is constantly threatened by the gloomy picture of global unrest. For that reason, we Buddhists should strongly raise up and carry out the motto, Peace, Harmony, Justice, held out by this ex-ABCP conference in our mission of propagating the Dhamma for the good welfare and happiness of many folk. In order to make a contribution to the aim of the conference, we would like to discuss a universal principle which was realized and taught by the Buddha himself to his followers, and from which springs love, metta, and compassion, karuna, leading to a respectful attitude towards life of all sentient beings and pursuing world peace and social welfare. It is the principle of equality among men as well as among all sentient beings. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "All tremble at punishment, all fear death. Comparing others with oneself, one should neither kill nor cause to kill. Whoever seeking his own happiness torments with the rod, beings that desire happiness, gets no happiness hereafter. The Buddha respected the life and happiness of all living beings for this only reason. All living beings love life but fear death. They all wish for happiness but hate suffering. He realized this truth through his own experience. In his survey over the world with his Buddha vision, the Lord saw that all living beings hold their own self dearest. So he said, "If one loves one's own self, one should not do harm to the self of others." We would like to lay a special emphasis on this universal truth, or the basic principle realized by the Buddha, to prove that his compassionate mind is infinite, and it cannot be measured by any ordinary mind. It totally differs from ours, for it is enlightened by his vision of truth, and not by any social tradition or convention. We often express our love and compassion to others because we are taught that love and compassion should be appreciated and nourished. Our tradition and convention encourage us to nourish love and compassion, but they are merely conventional love and compassion aroused by the external stimulus, not love and compassion resulting from the real comprehension of the basis of human life. Stimulated by our social tradition or convention, our love and compassion are usually limited by the norm of our social tradition or convention itself. We love some people and treat them with loving kindness, but not others. Generally, our social tradition or convention only allows us to extend our love and compassion within its limit, and seldom does it encourage us to develop them further. Racial characteristics, national frontiers, and cultures are strong barriers erected by every country as means to protect itself and show it's superior to others. We are inclined to boast of our good side and try to conceal our bad from others. It is the racial or national identity, the source of our national pride, that commonly serves as a barrier separating us from other nations and keeping us from extending our love to them. The aim of these national frontiers is creating the most possible differences among nations so that each one can get the best advantage. As a rule, every nation or race considers itself superior to others in some aspects, but few people or nations recognize similarities in human nature. Consequently, slight differences among people or nations are often exaggerated, while great similarities of mankind are often neglected. We always find other nations or races different from ours because they speak different languages or think in different ways, but we ignore the fact that apart from slight differences in language and cultures, men are alike just because all mortals fear death. We should realize this fundamental truth of human life so that our love and compassion can transcend national boundaries. Hence, war can be ended and peace can be preserved on this planet. Our Lord Buddha extended his boundless love and compassion beyond the limits of any social tradition or convention, as he fully comprehended the desire for life and disgust of suffering in all sentient beings. The Buddha's heart is not an Indian one, but an enlightened one, which overpasses any racial or cultural boundary and sees human nature as it really is. All living beings are equal in the problem of life and death, or happiness and suffering. Therefore, the great lesson we can take from the Buddha's teaching is to overlook common selfishness hidden in national cause or racial pride, and to realize the universal truth of human nature. For that reason, is it worthwhile to make the distinction between oneself and others because of some slight differences in language and culture? In fact, we understand the importance of nation, languages, and cultures in the development of every nation and every individual. But loftier are the Buddha's love and compassion, overpassing all racial and national boundaries, and extending to all living beings. In the Discourse on Universal Love, Metta Sutta, the Buddha said, "May all beings be happy and secure. May their mind be contented, whatever beings there may be, feeble or strong, long, great, or medium, short, small or large, seen or unseen, those dwelling far or near, those who are born and those who are yet to be born. May all beings without exception be happy." Just as a mother would protect her only child, even at the risk of her own life, even so, let one cultivate boundless heart toward all beings. Let one's thoughts of boundless love pervade the whole world, above, below, and across, without any obstruction, any hatred, or any enmity. We believe that it is the Buddha's boundless love and compassion that opened the way to the Buddhist friendly attitude toward the life of all beings, and the noble ideal of serving the world unceasingly pursued by all Buddhists everywhere on earth. It is this love and compassion that has urged Jivaka to serve the Buddha and the Sangha with all his medical skill and prosperities, and Anattapanika and Visakha to offer all their possessions for the good of the clergy, or Emperor Asoka to declare ceasefire, restore peace, and make endless efforts to bring about material and spiritual comforts, as well as disseminating the Dhamma for the profit of his people and many other nations in the region, and especially numerous generations of Buddhist monks and nuns try their best to send the message of love and peace abroad, regardless of whatever difficulties and dangers they may face. Today, the more we witness terrorism, violence, and war that have continuously taken place almost everywhere on earth because of religious conflicts or extreme racism, and above all, economic sanctions imposed on some countries through differences in political viewpoints, the more deeply we are aware of the Buddha's teaching about the natural inclination to enjoy life but fear death in all mortals. As a matter of fact, we Buddhists should try our best to spread Buddha's compassionate teachings all over the world in the present situation. Thank you for your attention. Supplementary Lesson Number 4, Buddhism, Ecology, and Global Ethics. Introduction. Peoples and nations of the world prepare to enter the 21st century, in a period when the human community is in search of new and sustaining relationships to the earth, amidst an environmental crisis that threatens the very existence of all life forms on the planet. While the particular causes and solutions of this crisis are being debated by scientists, economists, lawyers, policymakers, the facts of widespread destruction are causing alarm in many quarters, and the question has been raised: is the human a viable species on an endangered planet? For many people, an environmental crisis of such scope and complexity is not only the result of certain economic, political, and social factors, it is also a moral and spiritual crisis, which, in order to be addressed, will require broader philosophical and religious understanding of ourselves as creatures of nature, embedded in life cycles and dependent on ecosystems. Buddhism, thus, needs to be re-examined in light of the current environmental crisis, and to generate worldviews and ethics which underlie fundamental attitudes and values of different cultures and societies. As we discuss problems facing us in the world, it seems quite natural that the Buddhist tradition should be considered. It has been asserted that Buddhism is one of the largest religions in terms of the number of participants. Its place in Asia is well established. Until recent times, it was the only religious or social tradition to be throughout all the cultural spheres of Asia. Its impact on the character of the history and the current state of cultural and social development in Asia, hence, is enormous. Furthermore, Buddhism offers a model for an era of international cultural histories. It can be said that Buddhism was the first world religion, for it was the first to transcend boundaries of language, kinship patterns, political structures, cultural areas. Over the last century, Buddhism has become quote-unquote portable and driven by the energies of contemporary Asian societies, and it is finding new homes in places as remote from one another as Brazil, Australia, Western and Eastern, the United States. The main issue before us is the question of whether in Buddhism we can find a way of dealing with ecological issues. The world's environmental crisis has prompted religiously committed, socially concerned people throughout the world to search their tradition for resources to address its roots causes and to recognize the rich potential of the interface between Buddhism and ecology. Vietnam is no exception. This presentation is part of a series of researches undertaken by the Vietnam Buddhist Research Institute, Ho Chi Minh City, regarding Buddhism and ecology, Buddhist concept of environmental ethics, which constitutes a modest contribution from the academic, the Buddhist, and the environmental communities in Vietnam, to the dialogue about a peaceful life and friendly behavior in an increasingly threatened world, to the debate on the need for global ethics, and at the same time, a call for cooperation among the academic, Buddhist, and environmental communities of the world, that of the ASEAN countries especially, to stimulate some productive reflection on these issues. Roman numeral 1. Concept of environmental and environmental ethics. Basic concept of environmental and environmental crisis. A. Concept of environmental. Ecology is relatively a new science dealing with various principles which govern the relationships between organism and their environment. There are various definitions of ecology. We refer here to that of P.D. Sharma, FNIE Department of Botany, University of Delhi, in his book entitled Ecology and Environment. These days, ecology has been contributing very much to socioeconomic, political, and other similar policies of the world. It is so common to find references of ecology in socioeconomic writing, magazines, weeklies, and daily newspapers. Ecology indeed plays an important role in human welfare. This is primarily a field subject, and modern ecology concerned with the functional interdependencies between living things and their environment. P.D. Sharma added, "It is not only environment which influences the life of organisms, but organisms too modify their environment as a result of their growth, dispersal, reproduction, death, decay, etc. Thus, the environment is caused to change due to organisms' activities. The dynamic environment and organisms make ways for the development of different kinds of organisms through a process known as succession. The process continues to the development of a community is now able to keep itself adjusted in equilibrium with the environment. This final stage of community is called climax." The above quotations prove that there is a live relationship between man and the environment which is continuous, inseparable, and natural. This very close relationship says that violating the environment means violating individuals' lives, as people could see from the current environmental crisis. B. Environmental crisis. The term pollution is defined by the Environmental Pollution Panel of the President's Science Advisory Committee in its report, Restoring the Quality of Our Environment, held as follows. Environmental pollution is the unfavorable alteration of our surroundings, wholly or largely as byproduct of man's actions, through direct or indirect effects of changes in energy patterns, radiation levels, chemical and physical constitution, and abundance of organisms. These changes may affect man directly, or through his supplies of water and agriculture, and other biological products, his physical objects or possessions, or his opportunities for recreation and appreciation of nature. Regarding the problem of nuclear energy, salvation or damnation, E.F. Schumacher, in his book entitled Small is Beautiful, wrote, "Of all the changes introduced by man into the household of nature, large-scale nuclear fission is undoubtedly the most dangerous and profound. As a result, ionizing radiation has become the most serious pollution agent of the environment and the greatest threat to man's survival on Earth. The attention of the layman, not surprisingly, has been captured by the atom bomb, although there is at least a chance that it may never be used again. The danger to humanity created by the so-called peaceful uses of atomic energy may be much greater. For water and earth pollution, again, the practice of disposal into the ocean made by the great powers, the discharge of quote-unquote high-level wastes dumped into the sea, while quote-unquote intermediate and low-level wastes are discharged into rivers or directly into the ground, and the emission of transportation, forest fires, etc., are the main causes of pollution. The mass of carbonic gas emitted more and more can make the atmosphere around the earth warmer and warmer and cause changes to the climate that is very harmful to man's life. How dangerous the current environmental pollution is. How threatened human life on earth is. This pollution must be an evident result of the modern scientific civilization with its fast and uncontrolled development of industries and economics. This civilization, in its turn, is the result of a very high development of self-thought way of thinking and enjoying pleasures of man. So the main causes of the great environmental crisis, which is being warned, are ignorance, avidya, and craving, tanha, of men. Here it may be asked whether the Lord Buddha's teaching on the truth of dependent origination and the five aggregates can give a solution to the current environmental crisis. Roman numeral 2. A. Dependent origination. Paticcasamuppada. The truth of dependent origination, realized by Lord Buddha Gautama, says, by the cause of ignorance, avidya, activities, sankhara, arises. By the cause of activities, sankhara arises. By the cause of activities, consciousness, vijnana arises. Form name, namarupa, six spheres, chabitana, contact, phassa, feeling, vedana, craving, tanha, grasping, upadana, becoming, bhava, birth, death, jati, marana, sorrow, soka, in which form and name can never separate from each other and can never separate either from the other 11 elements of the dependent origination. It is the same for the three worlds, tibhava. Form, therefore, includes man's physical body and physical world. The operation of form means the operation of man's mental activities, and inversely. This shows that man's life and environment are interrelated with each other. B. The five aggregates, Panchakhandas. It is similar for the operation of the five aggregates Lord Buddha Gautama taught. I will teach you, brethren, the five factors, and the five factors that have to do with grasping. Do you listen to it? And what, brethren, are the five sectors? All bodies, brethren, be it past, future, or present, inward or outward, gross or subtle, low or lofty, far or near, that is called the body factor. Every feeling, perception, all the activities, every consciousness, be it past, future, or present, inward or outward, etc., that is called the consciousness factor. Here, what is called form factor of one's body includes one's individual physical body and the outer physical world. In other words, environment is an intimate part of one's own physical body. If nature or environment is gravely polluted, his physical body life will immediately come to its ruin. It may be said that the science of ecology and the danger of the environmental pollution are offering human beings a vision that there is no limit of physical body of a man. It cannot be limited to the extent of his own body, of his country, or of any continent. This is the real meaning of selflessness of his body. It is similar for his other aggregates. How could the doctrine of dependent origination not be a solution to the environmental crisis? Roman numeral 3. Environmental ethics. A. Ethics. The Dictionary of Education McGraw-Hill book defines the study of human behavior, not just to find the truth of things as they are, but also to inquire into the worth of goodness of human actions, the science of human conduct, concerned with judgments of obligation, rightness and wrongness, or oughtness, and with judgment of value, goodness or badness. For humanistic sense, ethics means the theory that the true norms and proper goals of conduct are to be found in the physiological and social well-being of the individual who compose society. Page 208. B. Environmental ethics. As we could imagine, people are born to be happy, but not to be suffering. So the true standard of man's good actions, or the wholesome, must be based on the physiological, psychological, and social well-being of human beings. People ought to make choice between those values. In order to do this, they should concern themselves about the following crucial points. 1. Almost all values of human beings' current culture are based on self-thought, or ignorance, avidya. So they should be clarified under the light of dependent origination, or non-self-thought vidya. In other words, the doctrine of dependent origination needs to be introduced as widely as possible to people in the world of education and in society, so that a new course of culture for the protection of environment may be formed. 2. The doctrine of dependent origination says that the one exists in the all, and the all exists in the one. This means the pollution or disturbance of this place is that of other places over the world. This requires all individuals, all organizations, and all nations have duty and responsibility to protect environment at the same time for the survival of mankind. 3. The truth of dependent origination should be added to ecology as a basic theory and should be considered in environmental philosophy and ethic. 4. In addition of the above 3 suggested points, an appeal to stop all atomic and chemical tests need to be repeated over and over again. It is the same for an appeal to limit the so-called peaceful uses of atomic energy and create a safe measure for the disposal of water from factories and industries. 5. Measures to restrict the emissions of poisonous gases into the air. 6. Measures to protect forests and animals from destruction. 7. The most important point is to help people to understand and control their craving or desire, tanha, which is the basic cause of all causes of environmental pollution. This means that the release from one's mental pollution requires environmental education for individual and individual's duty and responsibility. If one's sensual and sexual desires increase and increase, i.e. desire, hatred, and illusion increase as what is happening. There is no way to protect environment as what we could learn from the doctrine of dependent origination. There is one thing left: decay, suffering, and destruction for living things over the world. 8. Measures to build up a sustainable peace in the world. Roman numeral 4. Global ethics, international law, and Buddhism. A. The need for global ethics. As we cross the threshold not only into a new century, but also into a new millennium, during a time of dramatic social change, we are challenged to put the building of a sustainable, peaceful world and the task of developing a new global ethics in the forefront of reflection on social transformation to adjust to the demands of the changing global environment. The need for ethical values that are shared worldwide is fundamental. While economic and technological forces are creating a new global community, and the process of globalization cannot be stopped, the industrial and technological revolutions sweeping the planet are causing severe worldwide problems that can only be solved with global solutions and cooperation involving all sectors of society. It is the task of global ethics to chart the value changes needed so as to guide the forces shaping the emerging global community in creative directions that promote planetary well-being. The idea of working in agreement on the ethics of living together in a multicultural world that is interconnected economically and socially was raised by the United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987, when it called for the new creation of a new charter that would prescribe new norms for state and interstate behavior needed to maintain livelihood and life on our shared planet. Since the Stockholm Declaration, generated by the UN Conference of the Human Environment in 1972, substantial progress has been made in developing international law regarding the environment and sustainable development. But what global ethics requires is rather soft law, documents in the field of international law, which are non-legally binding treatises, but mere statements that express the aspirations and intentions of the states involved. The question raised here is, what principles from a Buddhist perspective constitute the core of the emerging world ethics? Some observations and questions regarding global ethics and Buddhism might help to stimulate some productive reflection on these issues. B. Some core elements of Buddhist contribution to an emerging global ethics. Contemporary international law is increasingly using the worldview emerging from the new physics, evolutionary biology, and ecology to justify many of the principles and guidelines being developed. Emphasis is put on the interdependence of humanity and nature, the interconnection of all members of the large community of life, and the importance of biodiversity as well as cultural diversity. Does Buddhism support this new ecological worldview emerging from scientific inquiry? As a matter of fact, a number of studies have pointed out that there seems to be a significant convergence of Buddhist philosophy and contemporary physics, ecology, and environmental ethics. The Confucian philosopher Tu Wei Ming, in his article on Toward the Possibility of a Global Community, stressed the fundamental importance of the Golden Rule. The first step in creating a new world order is to articulate a universal intent for the formation of a global community. This requires, at a minimum, the replacement of the principle of self-interest, no matter how broadly defined, with a new Golden Rule. Do not do unto others what you would not want others to do unto you. For Buddhism, explained by the most venerable Dickman Chow, to harm the harmless is like to throw fine dust against the wind, with the result that one has to suffer the consequence of one's action. Lord Buddha, in his survey over the world, clearly states that all living beings hold their self dearest. So if one loves his own self, one should not do harm to the self of others. Lord Buddha Gautama taught, your actions should be in accordance with your name. You should be harmless to everybody. He who does not harm anybody through body, speech, and mind, he who does not harm any living being, will be truly a harmless one. Lord Buddha has a respect for life, any life, even the life of an insect and of a plant. He advises us not to kill, because all sentient beings tremble at the stick. To all life is dear. The first precept to be undertaken by a layman is this respect for life, this restraint from killing living beings. As a Brahmana is worthy of his name, a sage should be one that practices this respect for life wholly and completely. Thus, for Buddhism, the principle of helping and not harming is being extended to embrace the relations of people to all sentient beings, not just to human beings. The question is whether the principle of the Golden Rule should be considered humanity's most fundamental shared ethic idea. It has already been cited in the report of the UN World Commission on Environment and Development, Our Common Future, 1987, in a section dealing with proposed new international law principle designed to prevent transboundary environmental harm. The report recommends that every state, in its relation with other states, should adopt the principle, do not do unto others what you would not do to your own citizens. It has been acknowledged that the most fundamental principle of environmental protection is widely recognized today to be a variation on the theme ahimsa, or no harming. The draft the International Covenant Environment and Development prepared by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, states in a section on fundamental principles, the protection of the environment is best achieved by preventing environmental harm rather than by attempting to remedy and compensate such harm, Article 6. This principle is viewed as especially important in situations where there is the chance of irreversible environmental harm, as would occur if an endangered species were to be eliminated. 2. It is believed that Buddhism, given its ethical tradition, is in a unique position to secure from the international community a stated intent to cooperate in human treatment and unnecessary suffering. The Four Noble Truths focus attention on suffering as the fundamental problem from which sentient beings seek liberation. And Buddhist ethics regard compassion for the suffering of all sentient beings as the supreme ethical virtue. The immersing world ethics, as expressed in the international law, does address different causes of human suffering: poverty, inequity, ignorance, war, environmental degradation. Yet existing international law does not identify the suffering of non-human beings as a moral issue. It is concerned with species and the protection of biodiversity, but is not concerned with individual non-human beings, unless they are representatives of an endangered species. International law does help to reduce some suffering of non-human creatures by calling for the protection of ecosystems, but the concern is with ecosystems' health and the integrity of biotic communities in line with Aldo Leopold's land ethic, not with the suffering of individual creatures. National law in many states does address the issue of cruel abuse of animals. Should international law join the environmentalist concern regarding ecosystems and species with compassion for all individual sentient beings? From the Buddhist point of view, the suffering of non-human sentient beings caused by humans should be identified as a moral issue. Such a principle has been adopted in the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, Guideline on the Treatment of Non-Human Creatures set forth in Caring for the Earth, which states, people should treat creatures decently and protect them from cruelty, avoidable suffering, and unnecessary killing. Here again, it is assumed that Buddhism, given its ethical tradition, can offer help to a world undergoing destructive changes in its fragile ecosystem. Conclusion. This presentation to the Peace Conference, organized by the World Council of Peace and the Vietnam Peace Committee in Hanoi, is built on the premise that Buddhism may be instrumental in addressing the moral dilemmas created by the environmental crisis. We are fully conscious that the complexity of the problem requires interlocking approaches from such fields as science, economies, politics, law, health, public policy, as the human community struggles to formulate different attitudes towards nature and to articulate broader conceptions of ethics, embracing species and ecosystems. Buddhism may thus be a necessary, though only contributing part of this multidisciplinary approach. At present, abundant scientific knowledge of the environmental crisis is available, and numerous political and economic statements have been formulated. What is lacking is the actual commitment to transform the environmental crisis from rhetoric and paper to effective policy and action. There is growing consensus that Buddhism may now have a significant role to play. Just as in the past, it has sustained individuals and cultures in the face of internal and external threats. This paper is intended to expand the discussion underway in certain circles to broaden and deepen the reflective basis for further cooperation on a topic of common concern, the fate of the earth as Buddhist responsibility. It is with a sense of humility and yet responsibility that we get involved in this Buddhism and ecology new challenge, not only on the assumption that Buddhist, and particularly Asian Buddhist worldviews, are inherently environmentally friendly, but that is a beginning in a new field of study which will affect both Buddhism and ecology. On the one hand, environmental studies can recognize that Buddhism has helped to shape attitudes towards nature, and on the other hand, as Buddhism fosters awe and reverence for nature, it may provide the transforming energies for ethical practices to protect endangered ecosystems, threatened species, and diminishing resources. Buddhism will then come to be seen as eco-friendly. While Buddhism has certainly been influenced by the Greenpeace environmental movement, the present paper suggests ways in which contemporary Buddhism, in its worldview and practice, has penetrated the environmentalist community in addressing the environmental crisis and served as vehicles for expressing scientific Buddhist positions on ecological and peace concerns. We are grateful to the World Council of Peace and the Vietnam Peace Committee for providing us with the opportunity to contribute our modest share to the success of this timely, appropriate international conference held in Hanoi, the capital of peace, loving and environmentally friendly Socialist Republic of Vietnam.